My friends, we are live. No introduction. I hate introductions. I hate when I say the man was born. I will say this. We have one thing in common, Jimmy, that I never knew. Both of us are alumni of St. Lawrence institutions from various places, from our virtue of our Catholic education, which I think fascinated me the most. Without further ado, Jimmy DORE, welcome and thank you, my friend. Thank you for gracing me with your presence, sir.
My pleasure to be here. I've hit the big time.
Let us begin. Top of mind awareness. What's the number one thing on your mind today?
The number one thing on my mind today is I just saw the guy who shot bin Laden say that there was no way that Charlie Kirk was shot with a 30-06. I saw that today on Twitter. That was that. I think it was on News Nation, maybe. I don't know. He was on some news show, and so that's what's on the top of my mind. And it also, the second thing that's on the top of my mind that Candace Owens revealed was that the FBI is not in possession of the SD cards of the cameras that were behind Charlie Kirk. And so they didn't get his phone. They didn't get the cameras. This is not an investigation. This is a setup.
Well, this is very interesting. And by the way, and I say this with all due respect, your ability to respond to this as a citizen means more to me than some lawyer. Lawyers miss it. They talk more about the procedural this and that. No. What's the part that grabs you the most? What's the part about this? And how the thing is because I'm thinking more of the jury. Once anybody, if you can just pay attention to this story, forget Charlie Kirk, forget TPUSA or anybody else. The case stinks to high heaven. Could I indulge upon you? Can you give me one of the best recitations you gave was the lunacy of his taking apart his rifle, putting it back together again.
Well, we're supposed to believe that another straight A student, isn't it something they're all straight A students? Luigi Mangione, straight A student, the Crooks guy's straight A student. And somehow, just like Butler, Pennsylvania, a guy with a rifle is able to get on a roof that people in the crowd see, but nobody in the security sees. Secret Service didn't see. Charlie Kirk security didn't see. The campus police, the local police, nobody saw this guy. They're $1 million security team, but nobody sees him. And somehow he gets up in the middle. He gets up one day and says, I'm going to drive 3 hours and commit the biggest public assassination in 60 years. And so then he somehow magically finds the open stairway, gets up to he has a gun. It's too big to carry in his backpack. So he takes it apart. And then they said he put it down his legs. But of course, he couldn't have done that because he couldn't get up the steps if he had it down his pants. But somehow he gets up there and he changes his clothes. He takes the gun, puts it together, puts the scope on it, lines up the shot. Nobody sees him, takes the shot, takes the gun apart again, forgets the screwdriver. That's going to come back to bite him in the ass, changes his clothes, puts it somehow under a towel, Spidey Man's his way off the roof, runs across campus. Nobody sees this guy carrying a rifle under a towel, goes back into the woods, puts the gun back together without the screwdriver because he's a regular MacGyver. And then he hides the gun in the backyard of a house owned by Palantir. And if you think something else happened, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist.
First, I have never, I cut my teeth on OJ. And when I first came to, when I was on WABC, I was doing mornings and they didn't know me from Adam. And I walked in there and I said, the night of the slow speed chase, make a long story short, I said, this guy killed these people. What are you talking about? He killed them. What? How do you know? I said, he's getting away. It's called a flight. He goes, it's a slow speed chase. I said, this is New York. What the hell's the matter with you people? In fact, I would go on various TV shows, including the great Charles Grodin. And I said, he killed these people. Anyway, so nobody, they thought it was crazy. Anyway, but Jimmy, this was without social media. Who are these deep divers? Who are these people that come across? Hi, my name's Chuck. I used to deliver for DoorDash, and now I'm a ballistics expert. And hi, my name is Larry. I'm the president of Sex Without Partners, the Encinova, and now I went through. Candace breaks through every company, limited corporation, every late book, Nisi, this new one, these incredible people. And my latest one, did you hear about the Mauser, the safety switch on the back, which would collide with the scope?
Yes, I did. So that it was impossible for it to fire even that gun. And by the way, that gun was never fired, because if it was fired, the gun sniffing dogs would have sniffed it out. They didn't, but they did find it the minute the FBI showed up. All of a sudden, they found that gun. So I think, the most amazing part of this is the incuriosity of the legacy media. Because this is a story that's right in their wheelhouse. Remember how they talk about OJ? I remember John Benet Ramsey. That was for years. That was headline news. They're not talking about this at all. They have no curiosity about it whatsoever, which tells me that there's a connection to Israel, because the media is always deferential to Zionists and the Zionist narrative, if not controlled by Zionists. Right now, CNN, of course, we know that it's been purchased, and CBS, to push a Zionist narrative. But the other places, Fox News, MSNBC, ABC, no one is interested in this. There's no the Atlantic, nobody is the Rolling Stone magazine. Nobody is doing a deep dive into any of this, which just is shocking to me. In fact, they're doing the opposite. It all seems to circle around Israel, and so we know that there's some kind of that. To me, that tells me that there's a definite connection there.
Well, one of the things, when I think there's got to be a name for this. The old expression, he doth protest too much. If I recall correctly, one of the things which confounded a lot of people was when Bibi Netanyahu said, I didn't do it. I said, wait a minute, hold it, stop. Just kidding. Wait a minute, hold it. What was that again? Now, if you are not, put it this way, take the word Israel, change it with Luxembourg, and all of a sudden these people say, those Luxembourgians, those bastards did it. But for some reason, wait. That's number one. Number two, you mentioned in curiosity. Why? Have you heard the stories of yet another NASA scientist or somebody found dead? A woman said, they're going to kill me. This woman who was working with anti-gravity said, not only I haven't come into this, she said, they're going to kill me. And was it 10, 11, 12? Nobody. You would think Kash Patel, maybe to perhaps rekindle his connection with the country as far as being a crime fighter, he would care about this. Jimmy, is it the water? Is it the Wi-Fi? Is it the geoengineering, the spraying? What about that part of our curiosity, that aha moment where it's just turned off? What happened?
You tell me what happened. Even Miko Kyriako if that's how you say his name, right. Even he's sounding the alarm that there's something to this. I bet he's afraid himself, right? So, I never thought there'd be a day where if someone said, "What are you? Are you some kind of scientist?" and I'd be like, "No way! I don't know anything. Right. I don't want to." So it's. I don't know what's going on. I always knew the legacy media was corrupt, and as Chomsky taught us, they're there to manufacture consent. This is off the charts. They're not even just like the FBI. They're not even trying to come up with the plausible excuse of what happened or why they're not investigating this.
There's also something I think you mentioned in curiosity, and I always I find it fascinating. You perhaps maybe in your broadcasting career right now, or recently, there was the NAB and the broadcasting, all the radio people, and the biggest podcasters, they said, of all time, or in terms of free frequency, is of course Joe Rogan, and this group, this young girl team about true crime. They said true crime is the number one. Listen to this. the number one radio format in spoken word is true crime. Could have fooled me. This is the best crude. They want to go back to something that happened 50 years ago at some college campus. This is as true as it gets. And I'm saying it's wild. And remember, OJ we know who did it. We just didn't know if they could prove it. Here, we really don't know who did what. And yet, every day, there is this, okay, you've got this story. Then we'll throw in Candace Owens. Then all of a sudden, the latest edition we have to talk about is Laura Loomer. Now, why she's involved in this? Well, you can do the math. Then we have the TPUSA people trying to hang on to their legacy by poo-pooing the notion of somebody other than Tyler being responsible for this. Why that would affect their legacy, I have no idea. It doesn't really matter to me. But they're immediately taking the position that this is a conspiracy theory. Erica Kirk, who comes out in the same breath, not only forgives him, but demands a speedy trial and says, let's go. So try diagramming this. You know, remember with the red yarn and the pegs on the detectives? Help me out with this. I find it fascinating.
Well, I just saw it today, Blake. It's the same old story from the TPUSA people. Blake Neff was coming at Candace Owens today, trying to say what's disgusting is that she's harassing a young mother victim. And it's like, okay, she's first of all, she's not young. She's 37. Secondly, she's the CEO of a giant, influential political organization. So she's not just a young mother. She's not, right. You know, it'd be like if Jackie O took over the right. DNC immediately after. People like, you can't question her. And so that doesn't, so, and, you know, I don't think the TPUSA people are trying to worry about their legacy. I think they're worrying about being exposed as criminals. First of all, you know, the Wolves in Finance has done great work on how they have all these shady shell corporations and the money. And Charlie Kirk ordered a Doge style accounting which is not happening. And so the people and it seems like Tyler Boyer had a previous association with Erica Franze before she met Charlie Kirk. They lied about when they met. There's all this. So I think that they're all criminally involved in this somehow. And they don't want an investigation, and they want it to go away, and they want everyone to believe the establishment narrative.
Now, if you and I were going to be writing this script, let's say we're sitting around the writer's room, and this is a script. And I said, okay, guys, but by the way, that was, of course, Erica, 6 days after the worst day of her life. Hey guys, how's everything going? How's the merch going? Glenn Gary going, come on, let's go, come on. Coffee's for closers. Come on, let's go. Hey, that. I mean, she's pulling out the confetti. Everybody, these poor kids, they're bereaved. They're shell-shocked. The man they loved, his widow is perky, buoyant, effusive. But anyway, if I wrote this story, if I said, okay, Jimmy, here's the arc this week. There's going to be a University of Georgia event. Now, now Erica, at the last minute, while she's there in the back, she's already there. While the vice president, JD Vance, who just withstood Islamabad, the man he's into the hornet's viper's nest of every conceivable. He's got no problem being there. She's in the back. She won't even look out. And all of a sudden she says, you understand, I can't show up because of this particular threat. Meanwhile, it looked like an old Amway rally. I mean, there was like 4 people there. You know, you could hear kind of like the clapping. What did you make of that, and how obvious that was?
Well, I make of it what everybody else does. You know, she, you know, they talk about her going through the different stages of grieving, and apparently she's at center stage, and because that's what she, you know, they try to pretend that she is not a fame whore and she's not seeking celebrity. That's exactly what she's done her whole life. And, from the beauty queen stuff to being in movies that are centered around Fort Huachuca, by the way, to being auditioning for reality shows, wanting to be a reality star. She was on them. And then her constant lying. And then immediately after her husband is executed, she goes on a book tour. She goes on a media blitz. So what I make of it is that this woman is, MK Ultra didn't end. So it seems like she's been part of some kind of MK Ultra. What I say on my show is that if the CIA had a vagina, she came out of it.
Well, that's interesting imagery, and perhaps for other people. Now, what I also found interesting during this whole story was, and you mentioned this, is what's JD Vance doing? Does anybody, what is anybody doing in this? How has not Trump, Vance said, get it through your head, she's a pariah? I don't know where. Nobody, let me say this, nobody likes her. Nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee. Nobody likes her. Nobody. Well,
it's pretty obvious what JD Vance, why he's doing what he's doing. First of all, he's part of the administration that's part of the cover-up, right? So the donors want the Trump administration to cover it up. So he's doing it. He's doing, just as he's doing the bidding of the donors in Iran, he's doing it here too. But so JD Vance has to go along. But the second thing is, JD Vance has political aspirations, and he thinks he's going to need an organization like TPUSA, which was instrumental in getting Trump elected. He thinks they're still going to be instrumental coming in 2028. He has no idea it's over for TPUSA.
Absolutely.
As was just, evidenced today by the president of the Georgia chapter saying we're done with TPUSA, and we're done with the lying.
But also I don't understand. Again, this is my whole thing of, I don't understand. I don't know. Before we go in, a lot of thoughts. I have found, and maybe you have, that the left and right, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it is, if I had met you, we would probably have been, maybe not you or me, somebody else. We would have identified ourselves up. We are polar opposites. We are politically dissimilar. We are not from the same. For some reason, differences made stupid differences. But we would always say, well, Jimmy is to the left or the right of. Okay, for some reason, on September the 10th, those divisions just disappeared, and I'm now listening to people that I would not have listened before. Frankly, some people who I thought were just obnoxious, and I'd rather suck a hospital mop than listen to them for 30 seconds. Now, all of a sudden, I found this newfound, wait a minute, they're on to something. Wait. Can it be that this brought us together? This isn't left or right. No, this is right or wrong.
Well, I've been saying for quite a while, I've kind of sniffed out this left-right paradigm. It comes from the top down, and it's a way to control people. And so how easy is it? It's the oldest game in the book is divide and conquer. So instead of us coming together and opposing the oligarchy and the WEF globalists that are really running things in the world, they get us fighting each other, which I have a lot of theories on, there's a lot of things that point to this, right? An open border. Well, an open border not only suppresses the wages of workers in America, but it keeps workers angry at people lower on the economic ladder than they are and fighting amongst themselves instead of joining together and fighting the oligarchs that are doing all these things. And so that this left-right paradigm, I don't believe in it anymore. I say that my neighbor is not my enemy, just like during COVID, they wanted me, the oligarchy did a controlled demolition of our economy, which flattened everybody except a handful of millionaires and billionaires. And they wanted me to blame and hate my neighbor for the pain I was feeling because they wouldn't take a vaccine that didn't work the way they said it did in the first place. Well, I'm not going to hate my neighbor. My neighbor's not my enemy. They're hurting just like I am. I'm going to join with my neighbor and oppose those people, because if we don't do it, it's game over for the Western civilization.
Years ago, there was a fellow, I remember I've always been a fan of Alex Jones. And Alex Jones, during his heyday, during his nascent period, whatever people think of him now, said some things which, frankly, nobody was talking about. And one of the things which was critical to me was Carol Quigley, Tragedy and Hope, and the end, the demise of the left-right paradigm. And he likened it to two drunks walking home, propping each other up, holding each other up, because it's this idea, this illusion. Some people call it the uniparty, but it's Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, that sort of thing. Two sides of the same coin. And then every 4 years, we switch them, throw the bums out, and this became part of our routine. Now, when I said that and repeated it and said, you mentioned the oligarchy, I mentioned, Mockingbird, and go down the list, and they didn't know what to say. People believed or agreed with what I was saying because I'm citing other stuff, but they didn't know what to make out of me. My red pill moment, I don't know about yours, was 9/11. I was here in New York. That thing blew me away. I could not believe what I was seeing. And I said, wait a minute, hold it. Soylent Green are people. You don't understand. No, wait. It's not what you think. And we were talking about Building 7 and all this other stuff. And people would come up to me and say, what the hell are you talking about? To people whose motto used to be, never forget. How about try remembering? So I've been through this forever. I've been called everything in the book. I'm a lunatic, a tinfoil hat. By the way, it's not tin, it's aluminum. We haven't used tin for years. So now all of a sudden, here I am, and I'm reaching out to people who, or with the Heritage Foundation, or with Fox News, or MSDNC, who in this one moment, this singular moment of truth, say, wait a minute, we can agree on this. It's like, yes, this is obvious. This is bullshit. And it's wonderful. I'm effervescent.
Well, you mentioned 9/11, and it took me a little while to catch on to that, but I did through Building 7. And still today, if you mention Building 7 to people, they go, huh? They don't even know what you're talking. I didn't even know there was a Building 7. And so what the key thing about 9/11 was, you were not allowed to question the official narrative, so much so that they made the word truth. People who were seeking truth, they made truth a toxic term. They call it a
pejorative. Yes.
And so now you're supposed to be ashamed and embarrassed and discredited because you're seeking the truth about something. And so it goes 9/11. You're not allowed to question it. There's something going on. Then if you look at Seth Rich, same thing with Seth Rich. You're not, if you even had one question about it, I was put in a smear piece in the Washington Post because I asked normal questions that people were supposed to ask. I was on the Young Turks at the time, and they were not asking questions either because they're very establishment, even though they claim to be lefty. But I was on a panel one time with Ben Mankiewicz from Turner Classic Movies and Cenk Uygur. And I was bringing this up, and they're looking at me like I was crazy. And I remember saying, can you tell me the last time a reporter wasn't allowed to ask a question about an unsolved murder investigation, especially in Washington, D.C.? And of course, that they couldn't think of one, and they can't think of one since. Except here it is again. You're not allowed to question this. You weren't allowed to question Seth Rich. You weren't allowed to question 9/11. You weren't allowed to question the COVID narrative. And now you're not allowed to question the Charlie Kirk narrative. So whenever you're not allowed to question, that's when you know there's some fuckery happening. And let me quote someone smarter than me. The deeper danger is not disagreement, but the shrinking space for inquiry. A society that discourages questioning replaces understanding with belief. And so I don't remember who said that, but it was somebody pretty smart with the way with words. And that's exactly right. And doubt is not a weakness. It is a necessary part of finding truth. So this is it. This is where we are.
Well, right. This is rudimentary. Going back to Seth Rich, who was it at the time? It was Hannity. Hannity wouldn't bring it up, but I think his family gave him a say, shut up. They go, excuse me, you're the family member? Wait. You're the How many times have you said, don't you understand? We've been to the cops 12 times. Nobody lifts a finger. Okay, I'll help you. Not so fast, Shawnee. Not so fast. And not only this was the guy who apparently was somebody who was a Bernie. By the way, Bernie was that one light Bernie was such an important. I was in Brooklyn, happened to be the day, this cold day, when all these people were there to see this old Brooklyn Jewish guy who talked funny, and kids were crying. I said, this is incredible. All of a sudden they said, psst, psst, psst. His wife's under investigation. Psst. Next thing you know, he buys a lake house, and I'm done. I'm out of here. Bernie, what happened? But anyway, Seth Rich worked for the DNC or whatever it was, and he realized, wait a minute, this is, I think I've come up to something. And they realized it must have been a thumb drive or something. And lo and behold, the world's worst robbery. Take the wallet. Always take the wallet. It's a robbery. It's almost like they want you to do this. One more thing I got to tell you about this 9/11. When I was on the air, and here I am in New York, I mean, you could smell this stuff. It was wild. And somebody asked me, Flight 93. I said, 93? What the hell is that? Because I didn't even know the numbers. Shanksville. I said, what the hell's Shanksville? What are you talking about? So that, the plane, remember this, it was Let's Roll. It was whatever his name was. Anyway, so I'm looking and I said, just a minute, let me see. I said, look for the pictures. So I look, I said, is there a plane crash? I said, I don't see it. I saw this little divot. I saw a little fire truck. I saw some steam. Kind of white. I said, is that it? I said, where's the plane? I saw like Hervé Villers says, where's the plane? And they said, what are you getting at? I'll never forget this. Jimmy, they said, what are you getting at? I said, the truth. I said, where's the plane? And I realized, holy shit, it's happening. It's true. Nobody cares. All the people who were there. Then it's like Operation Northwoods. Ooh, cue the Robert Klein. Ooh, I mean, just, and one thing after another. And I'm walking out into traffic. Somebody, aren't you? And I sound like Mel Gibson. And you must have gone through. What was the moment? Did you have a red pill moment? Did you have that, oh my God, it's true moment? Or was it one collective sentience your whole life?
Well, it was when I realized the Building 7 happened and that they said it had fallen down 20 on the news reports. BBC said it's already exploded. And then I'm like, well, that's not how buildings fall. That's how buildings are imploded. It's a controlled demolition. It's
what obvious. Are you, an expert? What are you, an expert?
And then I saw a videotape of firemen, which of course the video has been suppressed, of the firemen saying, "Hey, back up, we're about to pull it." Oh, the guy who owned the building said they pulled it.
Silverstein.
That's Silverstein. He said, yeah, we made the decision to pull it. And then they try to pretend that it's like Bill Clinton. What's the definition of is? It's like, well, what's the definition of pull it? We all know what the definition is. And so, yeah, that was the moment for me. And I'm like, oh, it didn't happen the way they said it happened. And it's like, who are you going to believe, the government or your lying eyes? And of course, George Bush wouldn't testify under oath, and he would only do it in secret, and he would only testify if he had Dick Cheney next to him. And now the people who wrote the 9/11 report, most of them disavow it anyway, and it's been proven that the government lied to them. So that was the moment for me when I realized that.
That was mine too.
Building 7.
At Zelikow and all these others, and the best part is, who was it? Norman Mineta. He says, "Sir, they're moving in. Stand on order." And Cheney said, "No, they're moving in. They're coming at us. Should I shoot them down? This is Killer Cheney. This is Mad Dog. This is Torquemada. This is Cerberus. The she. I mean, he said, nah. Wait a minute." And did you also know later on that it just so happened on the day of 9/11 there were like 43, 34, whatever drills on hijacking. And guess where the planes were? They were doing hijacking drills. Now get the joke of this. You could write this. You pick up the phone and say, there's a hijacking. And you say, Jimmy, I know it's the drill. No, it's a real hijacking. Look, very nice try, DORE, but you're not going to fool me. I understand. No, it's a real, keep it up. So on the days that all of the planes were unavailable, and by the way, one more thing about Shanksville, there were no planes there. 8 miles away in New Baltimore and Indian Lake, that's where the debris was. And you know what somebody said? They said, that's where there were no engines and wheels and nothing, and beverage carts and magazines and people and luggage. And they said, well, the wind took a 6-ton titanium engine, or this was Pennsylvania. And they drill a lot. So the water, the ground's very powdery. So it just added.
It just absorbed. Yeah. So again, whenever that's the tip off, whenever you're not allowed to question something, especially a government narrative, they're covering up stuff and you're onto something. You're over the target. And, of course, nobody ever told people investigating the JFK assassination to stop, or the Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or RFK. Nobody ever told those people to shut up and that they're bad people or they're demonic because they're investigating the official narrative. But all of a sudden, here we are. If you did that with Seth Rich, if you did that with 9/11, if you do that with Charlie Kirk, you're some kind of evildoer and a bad person and you lack character and you're crazy, you're demonic, you're evil, you're satanic. And so that's obvious that there's a cover up happening and you should keep going.
Remember I'm sure the classic, the CIA memorandum or office, kind of an internal document, which was written and produced after the Warren report. People didn't believe the Warren report. The Zapruder film came in like 1977 during a Geraldo, Good Night America. We didn't even know about the Zapruder film, but just the Warren report, nobody believed. So the CIA came up with this idea that here's what you do. Get a hold of our Mockingbird media friends and weaponize the term conspiracy theory. Tell people that it would take too many people involved. People can't keep secrets. Weaponized it. Oh, and this one, you don't understand, Jimmy. You cannot believe that somebody as great as President Kennedy could have been taken out, could have been dispatched by somebody as insignificant and that's your problem. You can't believe this. So what you do is you come up with a story and they have all these things already figured out. And that's where the weaponization of the conspiracy theory came in. That's when it really kicked in.
Yeah, they didn't invent the term conspiracy theory, but they weaponized it. And so now anybody who is asking just logical questions, they say the same thing about Candace now. They say her questions are dangerous. And I'm like, her questions, they're not afraid of her question. They're afraid of the answers. That's what they're afraid of, because the answers would reveal that it was a criminal conspiracy to kill Charlie Kirk. I don't think he was dead. I think that I would not be surprised if he was finished off in that SUV, because they didn't put him in an ambulance. They didn't give him first aid. Even I've seen medics from the military say they weren't. I can tell you what they're not doing. They're not giving him first aid. And so that again, there's, and why wouldn't they have an ambulance there nearby? Why would they stuff him in the back of and his legs are hanging out? I think he was fighting for his life. That's what I think was happening. And and Mikey McCoy, that stupid excuse that the reason why he turned away with the phone to his ear and just kept walking nonstop before Charlie Kirk even fell off he wasn't even on the floor yet, Mikey McCoy. And the reason they gave for that was that it was drilled into him that if ever anything happens to Charlie Kirk, he immediately is supposed to call Erica. Well, he didn't. He called his wife first. And second of all, really? That's what Charlie drilled into his head? Not like, hey, if something happens to me, call 911, get an ambulance, give me first aid, make sure. No, none of that. Now, don't try to actually do anything that's constructive. And why didn't anybody call that? Why didn't anybody get an ambulance? Why did Mikey McCoy walk away like that? They're all in on the cover up 100%. And I think they had foreknowledge. And again, they're all flashing hand signals and
wearing the same shirts. And
Brian Harple's just, if you can watch his interview he did, I forget what the guy's name is, on that CIA guy who has a podcast. But if you know the other guy, Sam something, but if you can watch he did an hour-long interview with him. It's just one lie. It just flies right off him that he's lying. And they caught him lying about the drones, right? He said that they weren't allowed to fly drones. And then, of course, one of the pastors that was close to Charlie said, we were watching the drone coverage on our phones. And it's so, it just lie after lie after lie. By the way, they took that SUV that they took him to the hospital in. You know what they did? They immediately steam cleaned it and sold it. So that's why wasn't that entered as evidence? Of course it should be evidence. Same thing that did to JFK. Go ahead.
How about they paved the entire crime scene? They paved it. They put up a parking lot. Look at Joni Mitchell. What are you doing? This is what they happened to JFK. The JFK death car was left open, was immediately cleaned. The windshield with a bullet hole coming from the opposite direction, which proved the conspiracy, was sent to a Ford plant or something overnight. The new windshield replaced. You can't write this. It's the same thing. And going back to the incuriosity, nobody's going to say anything about it. Candace is, you are, other people are, but nothing happens. There's no congressional anything. We don't get that John Kennedy asking some stupid cornhorn, foghorn, or what about Jim Jensen or somebody else sitting there and saying, you're not going to leave until you answer this question. I'm telling you right now. Or just once, just say, we're going to hold you in contempt. We're going to do something. Or when was the last time the government ever really found a cover-up or found out that, hey, you know that thing we told you about Lee Harvey Oswald? It's not true. And they keep they keep promising the UAPs. I'm telling you, Sasquatch, Yeti, you name it. I'm telling you, it's coming out. And Pam Bondi, and I've got binders on my desk, and they're so horrible. And then you say, Pam, what about the binders? Binders? Ha! It's just, it's not gaslight. They think we're retarded.
Yeah. Well, her response to that is, hey, the stock market's up. Why are you asking these questions? The stock. Pam Bondi, as my wife says, she's such a horrible. She makes Erica Kirk look like a good person.
Well, also, listen, I don't want to go through it. If I told you, imagine this scene where President Trump gets his thing said, Mr. President, what? Did you hear the latest? What? The sugar daddy? But who? Oh, come on. Who? We're not done yet. Did you hear about Cash? He's doing kamikazes and Irish car bombs at some whatever. What? We're not done yet. More? And damn Bongina, at least he was the one who took off. Imagine what would have happened to him. And then we've got Pete Hegseth and Bobby Kennedy doing pull-ups. Bobby's cutting off the penises of dead raccoons. You can't. Now, if I told somebody this story, they're saying, you're making this up. I'm saying, it's true. It's nuts. And then Kristi Noem, go down the list. We've got.
Turns out there are cross-dressers. I've been asking that question. When I was a kid, I used to watch Phil Donahue. He had cross-dressers on once a week, and all of a sudden they disappeared. That everybody's trans, but now we found out, no, they're still there because Kristi Noem's married to one of them. So that was a big breakthrough, right? So they still exist. Here's another thing, Lionel. I want to, Charlie Kirk's whole thing, and there's video after video of him saying this, that if kids deserve to have a mother at home, and if you can not work, you should stay home with the kids. Well, obviously she doesn't need the money, and but she's a full-time CEO of a large corporation employing hundreds of people, and who's taking care of her kids? Where are her kids? And she's like, well, I bring my kids to work. That's not where kids are supposed to be. Kids aren't supposed to go to an office complex when they're 4 years old. That's not what kids are supposed to do. So the whole thing, and again, they won't go anywhere where they have to answer a real question. Andrew Colvett, Mikey McCoy, Erica Kirk, Tyler Boyer, Blake Neff, none of those people will go somewhere where they're actually going to have to ask a question. They're only going to friendly media like Barry Weiss to give them softballs and keep the narrative going. So that's the biggest thing. Why aren't you home taking care of your kids? Who is taking care of your kids?
Yeah. And if I say quickly, Erica, name one of your kids. Jimmy? No. Wait a minute, give me Jerry? Starts with a J, right? Now, another one too is I like little facts, little teeny things. Candace one time, if I recall, said, no, Erica, you don't, that's not where Charlie worked. Charlie worked in the other building, and you said, well, I want to go and I want to bring my kids to see who raised them or who took care of them or something. She said something off the cuff. Right. And it's like, no. And here's another one too, is I want to get an otolaryngologist or some kind of nasalist to say, Have you ever seen a woman who cries, who never blows her nose? whose lacrimation, she does like this, he does like this, he does like this. This is like, I guess she dips the mentholatum. And that's it. And then she looks and she says, stop it, stop it. And one of the best moments ever, sad, the girl, Irina, the young girl from Ukraine who was stabbed brutally at that blood train, they were at the State of the Union. And Erica was sitting next to her mother. And her mother was bereft, void, spent. She wasn't crying. She was a woman who was just like, I've cried by tears. I don't know where I am. And you could almost see her say, oh, so that's grief. How do you do that? Do you have any Vicks Vapor Rub? Or you never cry? It was almost like she does the same act. It's like a Saturday matinee, scene 2, act 2, scene 3, the kitchen scene, ready, go. And she does the same thing all the time. And apparently, I don't think she realizes that the party is over. What's her legacy going to be? Where is she going to go? When are they going to finally say, all right, that's enough?
Well, I think it's up to the donors, right? So when the donors to TPUSA stop donating to TPUSA and they run out of money, that's when they'll get rid of her. But I think that organization their influence is gone. They still will have, there's the true believers. There's how MAGA has flipped, right? So the people who were the loudest supporters of Donald Trump, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, they've all been replaced with people who hated Trump and never. So that's what's going to be happening with TPUSA. Charlie Kirk says never stop asking questions. It's the only thing that keeps us free. And now they're like, stop asking questions, just stop. And so the people who are going to be still following TPUSA are not the people who are following Charlie Kirk. It's basically just a Zionist organization now. That's what it looks like to me.
Now, do you think that somebody can you imagine when Candace would have said, Candace, yeah, listen, sit down, honey. What? Trump said something about you today. No, you don't understand. Sit down. Put the coffee down. He said that Brigitte Macron is better looking than you. This was the moment where I'm thinking, that's his out. It's almost like, remember Jeremiah Denton, Vietnam, I'm being tortured. Remember that they were interviewing and he's blinking, I'm being tortured. This was Trump trying to send out a message. I don't believe what I'm saying. Or in those old horror movies, those noir movies, where the policeman said, everything all right, Miss Dorr? Yes, I'm fine. Well, that was Trump. He's like giving a message out and he says, I got to say something that's nuts. Because they're worrying about his ankles and his purple hands or whatever. Right. And he said, they're worthless because they can't get a job on TV. That was hit number 1. Number 2, they're low IQ. Candace and Tucker are low IQ. If they are low IQ, retarded just got real big. And then finally, Brigitte Macron is better looking. What the hell?
She's not better looking than Pete Rose, for Christ's sake. I've seen cowboys with more graceful walks than she does. Are you kidding me? I would not be surprised to find out. I'd be more surprised to find out that Dan Bongino has a penis than Candace Owens.
Let me tell you something. I didn't want to break it to you right now, but I found out her original act, because, I don't know how old Brigitte is, but believe it or not, I found out today, she worked years ago on the vaudeville circuit with Senor Wences. And she was the original. Now look at this and ask yourself, E.T., no, this is Brigitte as a young person. I'm sorry, that's as high tech as I get. But let me ask you that. Do you think anything is going, if you being the media savvy person that you are, I predict that one day they're going to tell Brigitte and Emmanuel, listen, just Candace is on fire. Whatever she touches turns to gold. You're not that gold. Let it go. Dismiss with prejudice. We'll do an NDA. Just go away. You're going to be destroyed. You're done. And now they're suggesting that her trial lawyer quit, or was at least that's what Laura Loomer was saying. I haven't really followed that one because I think that case is going nowhere.
No, well, if nothing does more to squelch the rumorville of her having a penis than having a public court case about it. Of course, they're not going to let that go to court, right? Because as you know, and as Candace has talked about, she gets to have discovery, so
right.
She gets. And they don't want that. And where is her brother? Where is her brother? And so they can't answer those simple questions. And and then you see her slugging. Remember when she slugged him? Everybody saw that.
Yeah, the airplane. Yeah,
shit, that's like a real lady, a real lady slugging her husband in the jaw on camera. And then he's like, oh, he sees the camera and he's like, oh, it's just two bros goofing around. And I think what's happening in France is, they're much more permissive sexually and people having so I think they all know. I've been told, I don't know, but that, everybody in France thinks that she's got a penis, but they don't care. And so I think that's it. And, Macron is a tool of the international bankers and and he's useful to them. So that's why they keep them around. But that will not go to court. If that goes to court, that'll be the biggest mistake they ever made.
No, in fact, every time you try to hurt Candace, you end up bolstering her. Let me tell you what I think. Laura Loomer, this is serious. Listen, I'm a former prosecutor, been involved in criminal, defendants, and I've seen some crazy people before. And I'm not saying she's crazy, but there's an evil stalking mentality here, which scares me. And this is a person who becomes so perseverated, so focused, they lose. You see, even you, Jimmy, even you have a circuit breaker where whatever you think, your anger is stopped at a particular point. It just doesn't go beyond anything. You say, I'm going to change my mind. She doesn't have that. This screed, this vile, horrible shades of, dare I say, Don Imus, using every hackneyed, racist, something bad happened. So for the first time, a lot of times people who did not care for Candace are now all of a sudden, again, moving over. And I must ask you this question. Have you ever felt, and I don't know if you're left or right, I don't really know what to call you, but have you ever felt a sense of abandonment or alleged abandonment by some of your, let's say, colleagues or allies by virtue of your seeming alliance with Candace, that somehow wanting justice in the courtroom is right wing or not left or wrong?
Well, I always considered, excuse me, I was a Bernie Sanders fan. And so I always considered myself a lefty. But again, I've come to understand that those terms are made up and they're there to divide us. And so, but that happened to me when I wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton because she was a warmonger and a neocon, and I wouldn't support her. And she cheated, Bernie, meaning she cheated half the Democratic Party out of their rightful nominee. And so when that happened, a lot of my friends in Hollywood turned on me. They could, I was pilloried. And then when I went on to debunk, I was one of the first ones, I have to pat myself in the back, to debunk the Russiagate narrative. I brought on Bill Binney, who was the top NSA codebreaker.
I knew him well. Yes.
For decades. And he brought me on and he said, there's no way Russia hacked into the DNC server and that was a local download. And he did it forensically, he showed me. And so from day one, I knew that Russiagate was, and people like, oh, you're a Trumper. You're probably, I'm like, I'm not. My point is, I even had, Cornel West on my show and he accused me of being a Trumper. And I said, no, do you understand if they can do this to the president of the United States, that they can certainly do it to you? They'll do it to you. They'll do it to Jill Stein. They'll did it to Bernie Sanders. They'll do it to anybody to control you. So that's why we should all try to push back against this Russiagate narrative. So yeah, your question is, have I had my colleagues turn on me for asking legitimate questions? Yes, it happened with Bernie. When I wouldn't vote for Hillary, when I questioned the Russiagate narrative, when I questioned the Ukraine war, that was another big one. They called me Russia, and it doesn't matter how many facts you throw at these people; they're impervious, because these are emotional. And Russiagate was used to get people primed for the Ukraine war, and it worked perfectly. And then whatever friends I had left turned on me during COVID. And so, yeah, I bet this is a continuing theme in my life. And I have to keep turning over friendships.
Well, I have a thing to remember a couple of things. First and foremost, when I'm a little older than you, but I think both of us remember Boris and Natasha from Bullwinkle.
Yes, of
And I didn't
course.
know who these were. Hello, my little squirrel. I go, who are these people? Those are the Russians. Those bastards. I don't even know who they are. And of course, Cold War and duck and cover and all this. And okay, fine. So we were kind of told this all during. I mean, it's a classic psyop. I mean, it's Mockingbird. It's from Capra, from even Sylvester Stallone. I will destroy you. Niet, with his shoe. Russians always dour, bad cars, bad just. All right, fine. So anyway, so Putin comes along. He said, "Listen, not for nothing, but I don't want you to have any kind of a NATO country on my border. That's it. That's all I want. Thank you. Goodbye." And they says, "How dare you?" And they bring this coke addict, the guy who plays a piano with his schwanz. This guy's play. This is your guy. Yeah, he's a coke addict because this guy Kolomoisky created him. Okay, fine. It's like having Charlie Sheen. So then Putin is going to meet with Zelensky, and they said, "Look, let's work this out." Boris Johnson said, "Oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't." So he says, and here's Zelensky, and I'm almost thinking I feel sorry for him because, "Am I in NATO? Yes. Let me in." Well, just let me in. He never is in NATO to this day. And Putin is saying, "I'm telling you again, not for nothing." Remember after we told Russia, we told Gorbachev, and he said, "Listen, just let's reunify this thing." He goes, "Not one step east. We will not move." Are you sure? Right. Are you sure? Remember, years later, they said, "We never made that agreement." Turns out they found that a particular from a George Washington University. Somebody said, "Yes, we said that." But let me tell you how corrupt our government, not our country, but our government is. When they made the deal, when they said, "You bastards, you made the deal with me. You said Soviet Union. You said never." He goes, "Excuse me, I made a deal with the Soviet Union, and there is no Soviet Union. So fuck you." And can you believe that? So anyway, so Putin says, "Well, listen, if there's no Soviet Union, can we join NATO and the EU? Get out of here." So it's obvious. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, why am I'm not pulling for Russia. I'm pulling for common sense. What would you do?
So what people don't realize about Russia is that this war was in the chamber for decades, right? And so people don't even know about the Maidan coup, which was instigated
Victoria Nuland.
The Victoria Nuland handing out the whole. So they then they install a puppet, and so because the people who really pull the strings in the WEF billionaire class, the BlackRocks, the Vanguards, the State Streets, the people who really own and run the world. As George Carlin says, we have owners, right? And those are our owners. And they had a dream for a long time. They thought they could balkanize Russia. They thought they could break it up and split it up, and then they could reap the rewards of it, just like they're doing to Ukraine, by the way. They're buying up their farmland. And but turns out that Russia was a lot stronger than they thought they were going to be, and it's not working. In fact, now, and the one thing from everybody from Kissinger to Chomsky and everybody in between said, don't push Russia closer to China. And that's exactly what we've done. And now they're trading without US dollars, and which is bad for this is what happens when you have a handful of billionaires run the world. This is what we end up with: endless wars, and everybody with the dollar being weaker and weaker and weaker, and everybody living standards being lowered, and we're throwing people in prison for free speech, for critics. I mean, look at what they're doing in Florida. A girl made a joke on a WhatsApp thread, and they charged her with a felony. They've been putting people in jail in Germany and in the UK for normal speech, anything critical of the narrative, and they immediately criminalize. So we have become, the Western world has become the thing we thought. The Nazis didn't lose, turns out, World War II. They just turned into our current leadership in the Western world. The Western world is going down, and it's because we're run by a handful of billionaires.
What would you do? I'm assuming your grandparents are no longer with us. If your granddaddy came for one day and he said, "Jimmy, what have I missed?" What would you say? Well, I don't know where to start, But this is the one that got me. It's the little things. And my wife she's much better at it, but I'm very good at knowing like what's different. Quick story. Younger people, they say, as you get older, you do various things. You get hair in your ears, but things happen. And one thing they said, what is the neurological differences between young people and older? Young people were great at whack-a-mole. You give them this thing, they go like this and they go like that. And they're very terrific. Now, older people, do you remember the doctor's office? Remember Highlights magazine?
Yes.
Okay. Because you had to go to the doctor's office and you had gem cutters quarterly and you were stuck. And they had Highlights, Goofus and Gallants. Anyway, but they had this one thing that said, these two pictures, which one's different? And older people are better at saying, this is different. This is missing. This picture's missing. Why? It's called judgment. Knowing the difference between two situations. That's what we're really good at. So I noticed something. Well, one time it starts very easily. Do you remember, Jimmy, a while back, 10 years ago? I don't know. All of a sudden they said, we have to have, not bisexual, but bi-gender, but bathrooms. And I said,
yes.
That's where it started. This little stupid thing, like, well, this little seemingly innocuous, and then it took off. It took off running. And then it went to what I heard, Ketanji Brown Jackson or Jackson Brown. I get them confused. When they ask her, this is a potential Supreme Court justice. Can you define woman? I realized I don't know what I'm seeing. This is brilliant. And it started with something. It starts with a little microscopic pop and then turns into an explosion. My question is, who is behind this?
Okay, I'll tell you.
Please.
Okay. So I saw the head of Blackwater. What's his name? Or BlackRock. He
Fink,
was
right?
Yeah, Larry Fink. So he was talking about how we're going to. So if you don't go along with the agenda that he sets, you don't get access to low interest loans. You don't get access to business deals. Your corporation is on the out. So you have to. So he said that we was talking about the transgender and the bathroom thing. He was saying we're going to force this on them, and if they have no choice. And so why would he care? Why would he want? Well, because it goes back to my original point. If they can keep us fighting over bathrooms,
right,
then we don't come together to fight them. And that's exactly what all this is, to keep us fighting each other and fighting each other over little things like bathrooms and transgenders and women's sports and all that. And so they get us fighting over that stuff so we don't come together to fight them. And that's where this was not a grassroots the transgender. And by the way, I have no problem with transgender people, but I'm telling you.
Oh, yes, you do. Oh, yes, you do.
But it's the agenda did not come from the grassroots. It did not come from the gay community. In fact, that was instituted to get the gay community fighting each other. Listen, I'm here in New York and I got a couple of militant gay guys who are in their 70s and they'll kick your ass. They were part of Stonewall. And one guy tells me this guy looks like, remember Waylon Flowers and Madam? Yes. He looks like Madam. Like a Bronco Nagurski with a turban on, but all of a sudden he loses it. It just says, and I'm not trying to imitate it, but he says, there was a time when he gets past, he goes, let me tell you something. I was there. Hey, Newt Rockney, take it easy. He goes, I was there at Stonewall. And I don't know what the fuck this T is. It's LGBT. What's the T? Who are these people? So, wow, you have that internecine fighting there. I got to tell you one this is since the beginning of time. My wife will tell you, she says, Jesus, keep your eye on the road. I'm saying, they're spraying. Geoengineering, never called it chemtrails. Jimmy, if there's one thing where I'm saying, come here, you don't have to read. No, just do me a favor there, Sparky. Look up. You see that plane? What's he doing? Oh, that's water. No, it's not water vapor. Water vapor doesn't spread out and then traverse like a net, like octothorpes and hashtags. We look out and I can see every night over the Hudson River when the sun turns orange and you see, oh my God. And I can't talk. This is obvious. Who's spraying? What are they spraying?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
No, there's no doubt about it. And, here's the thing. Iran just knocked out the geoengineering plant. I'm not sure which country, but now because they've been in a drought forever. And now as soon as they did that, it's the temperature lowered in Iran 5 degrees, and that they're having snow and rain all over the place in Iran. And so, that they have a treaty. There was a treaty in the 70s that was signed saying that we all agreed not to use geoengineering weaponization, which we used in Vietnam. And so they wouldn't have you don't have a treaty for something if you don't already have that technology.
Right.
So they have that technology. It exists. It existed back in the 60s. That's why they had a treaty in the 70s. And so, that's definitely happening. And they don't want you to, don't look up. That's the whole, remember that movie, Don't Look Up? They don't want you to look up.
Remember also the father of this is Dane Wigington from geoengineeringwatch.org. I've known him for years, and people, I'm thinking, if ever there was a man who was lucid, cerebral, scientific, from Operation Popeye, how about when William Cohen in 96 said, we have the technologies not only to, he said, earthquakes and volcanoes, and Jimmy, since the beginning of time, since the rain dance, to control weather, to control it. There's certain things that mankind has indelibly in our genes to control weather. If I could go out into the ocean and I could send some directed engineering weapon, DEW pulse at some tectonic plate, some Tesla wave, and I can trigger an earthquake and start a tsunami, I don't have to fire anything. Then what I do is I come in, I help you. And I buy it. I loan you all the money that you're going to need, and we'll do this. Another question, Jimmy, because you sit there, and I turn to you, damn it. I turn to you and say, do something. Remember when the fires came, and all of a sudden, wherever they didn't want fires, Northern California, this is your neck of the woods, get rid of that high-speed rail. Got to get rid of those people. And even Joe Biden said, if you paint your roof blue, and Marjorie Taylor Greene said something. So what did they do? They called her anti-Semitic because she made a reference to Rothschild. And they, of course, they use this trope, which is just sticks to Velcro, anti-Semitic, And we've been saying, no, wait a minute. Lahaina, Oprah, buying properties, whatever, whoever investigates this. Do we just forget about this? You get me all worked up, and then we say, well, whatever happened to them? Oh, I don't know. You're LA. Look what happens. Two things coming: the Olympics and the FIFA. Guess what? They want 15-minute cities. It's all written out. It's there. What do you pay? Your mayor?
Well,
God.
So that's another thing you weren't allowed to question. I don't know if you saw this, but there were, celebrities and media personalities going on TV, again, trying to discredit people who were asking questions about the response to the LA fires. And if you did, you were just an idiot in your underwear on your couch. And what do you know? And you got to leave it up to the politician. I've never, again, this is crazy talk. And now we find out, of course, that Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, is involved in the cover-up of how they handled the fires. They were supposed to send 27 fire trucks. They sent 7. They were supposed to have orders on what they were supposed to do. They didn't get orders for hours. There was a fire that they were supposed to put out days earlier. The firemen wanted to stay there. They were given the order to evacuate and take their equipment with them. So we're finding out all this stuff now. And your
water pressure. They would because either the preservation or whatever it was that allowed this.
A reservoir above the Pacific Palisades that holds 113 million gallons of water. It was drained before the fires. And the person who, by the way, runs that, but the Department of Water in Los Angeles makes $750,000 a year. And she's never been questioned. She's never had to do an interview, and we don't even know where she is.
And listen, DEI, I've got to admit, DEI is a nice way of saying thank you. Can't say the N word, but DEI, got it. Okay. the poster child for DEI was your sapphic, I'll be nice, female fire department, where one woman said, well, let me tell you something. Maybe if I can't pick your ass up, maybe you shouldn't have gotten sick in the first. It's like, who?
Remember that?
This is Newt Rockney. You've
That
got
was-
Bronco Nagurski. Who are these people laughing, basically saying, I'm not going to rescue your grandpa? I mean, it's, huh?
Yeah, don't. I saw that video. It was a female fighter saying that if I can't carry, if maybe you shouldn't get yourself in a situation where you need to get carried out of it. It's like, what? It's just crazy. It's like a cop saying, well, don't get yourself in a situation where you need a cop. Don't get burgled. Don't get held up. Don't get assaulted. It's these are it's to keep us fighting amongst each other over things like this. There's got to be basic competency tests for a fire.
You don't have, but you're a lefty, that's what they say. You don't have Zoran the moron Mamdani. This is a guy who says, get this, you've been in New York. He wanted to have free buses. Now, would you ever go on a free bus where anybody can jump on a New York City bus? They do it anyway. He came up with this and then he said, nah, probably not. Then he says, I'm going to have free grocery stores. Well, maybe just for a few items, but we'll do this in 2029. I'm going to have, and then all of a sudden this guy comes along who has a great grin and they love him. And if you say something, you're an Islamophobe. And I said, wait a minute. Now we've got calls to prayer at Dearborn, Michigan at 5 a.m. And people are saying, hey, knock that off, you Islamophobe. Elon Omar, huh? That's your gal. I'm blaming you for all this.
I live in Los Angeles, and if you know anything about Los Angeles, when it was first invented and created, we had an amazing trolley system that went everywhere from Long Beach to Santa Monica and everywhere in between in the valley. And guess what? They got rid of that. Because why? Because of corporate. They wanted to sell you cars. They wanted to sell you tires. They wanted you to get on a bus that they could charge you for instead of having jump. And so they ripped out the trolleys. And now we have the worst traffic in the world because someone can make a profit off it. And so again, it's the billionaire class that wants to commodify everything. And I'm all for free public transportation. I think it's a great idea.
Yes.
But they don't want it. They want to sell you a car so you could sit in traffic for 2 hours every day on your way to go work for the man and come back. So it's the same thing over and over.
But if you wanted to do it, for example, in New York City, if you want, the subways are still fantastic. All you got to do is make the subways safe. But instead of doing that, we have this lunatic governor, Kathy Hochul, who has congestion pricing. Jimmy, if I come out of my garage, I'll be beep, $9
to
turn left. What are you talking about? One more thing, because you've been so kind. The only thing that is going to be the end of civilization is artificial general intelligence eventually, but artificial intelligence. When we hit singularity, when we hit that moment. Now they're talking about the Q apocalypse when quantum computing. But when I create something that has as its first rule recursive self-improvement, and this is a program that replicates itself, and the first thing it does is turn off your ability to stop it, and it has its own morality, and we're not sure about the idea of, do we share the same form of morality? This isn't about some, Roomba. This isn't about some little robot at an Amazon. This is about something taking over the world. And when it becomes self-aware and has a conscience, I promise you the Vatican is going to treat it as a human being. It's going to be able to vote, run for office, and we are royal.
I agree with you. I mean, didn't someone do a study recently where if the AI finds out that you're trying to dismantle it, so it'll go in, it'll blackmail you. It's unbelievable, and it's already here. That's already here. So yeah, I agree with you. It scares the hell out of me. I'd rather go back to a world before AI. That's for sure.
Well, AI can be good, but here's the only thing: it's not a bomb. You and I can say, okay, let's stop. Let's do this. Okay, let's stop. We'll just stop. We'll shut. Okay, this thing says, oh no. Imagine I just make a nuclear bomb that creates a nuclear bomb and makes 1,000 more. And by the way, my beloved wife, who fights against the horrors of child predation with Lynn's Warriors, imagine having a bot, you don't know this, telling your kid, hey, listen, where do your parents keep the knives?
Wow.
Hey, why don't you? This is true. Hey, listen, if you self-harm yourself, I'll help you write the note. You think I'm kidding? How about if you take a camera and I go to go to your refrigerator and I take a snapshot? He goes, oh, Jimmy, we can make a frittata. That's cool. Jimmy, where's the garage? Take a picture of that. I can make a pipe bomb for you. You got any fertilizer? Think I'm kidding? Because we're not sure whether we share the same morality. And this is something, imagine, but all of a sudden in Gaza or anyplace else or in Strait of Hormuz, somebody pushes a button and nothing works because maybe this AI system says, you know what, we don't think this morality comports with ours. Maybe we don't know. It'll take over things or start, we don't know. And nobody's talking about it. Sam Altman, who hasn't blinked since the late 80s, this guy's walking around applying, and Palantir with lavender and all of these weird weapon systems. I mean, it is, look, you and I know too much and people don't like us because we start spewing this stuff. But I'll leave you with this. Is there hope? Do give us something good? Is there anything that makes you say, man is good? Things are going to be okay, honey. You and your wife, things are going to be great. Any sign of lucidity in the world?
I just think that the American people, they want the United States and the Western world to become like China. It's one big surveillance state. Larry Ellison said, I got it on video, him saying that it'll be a better world if we're constantly monitored because then everyone's going to be on their best behavior. I don't know if you've heard him say that. He said that. And so I think there's something about being an American. We have the Wild West in our history, and it's in our DNA that we like freedom and liberty. And I think when it gets bad enough, the American people will throw that off and rise up against it. That's my hope. You got to have hope. And so that's my one light that I look to is that in the character of the American people, we value freedom.
What about the parties? Is there any use to this or
no? They're there to control. I mean, come on, 2 parties. Are you serious? You have 2 parties. You got, as George Carlin said, you got 40 different breakfast cereals. You got 2 political parties, really? So, and we're all supposed to fit in it, and it's a pretend. This, Candace says it. I've been saying it for years now. This left-right paradigm is made up, and it's there to divide and conquer, and it's working. I think people are waking up to it. The biggest group of voters are people who don't vote. The second group of biggest voting group block are independents. The Republicans and Democrats, they're like 25% each of the electorate. So I think they've outrun their usefulness, and I think people see through it. And I think people, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's seeing it. So if she can see it, and people like I can see it, I think there's a lot of people out there that say, I go out and I tour all over the country doing stand-up comedy. And my audience is people who are disaffected Republicans and disaffected Democrats, and they see through it. And so that's what gives me hope.
Do you think also, last question, any chance for an independent or for some, like somebody said the other day, we have 5 HBO channels and like you say, two parties. Do you see any chance for a serious breakaway, something where this binary, stranglehold is broken apart?
Question. I think what I don't think we can vote our way out of this because they'll just kill him, just like they killed JFK, RFK, Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk started to wake up to this same phenomena we're talking about, and they killed him immediately. So I don't think we can vote our way out of it. I think what's going to happen is that, like the truckers did in Canada during COVID, is that you have to put a hurt on the billionaire class and shut down capitalism to get control of the system again. It'd be a real revolution, but it's got to come from the grassroots. It's got to come from workers, and it's got to come from unions. The problem is most unions are too corrupt, but the people need to take it over. It's got to come from the grassroots, and we got to do things like the truckers did in Canada, and that really scared the hell out of them. And that's the only thing that scares the hell out of them, when the people on the left and the right come together to go against them, and that's what needs to happen, and I think it will happen.
Jimmy Dore, you have been, I want to thank you so much to spend your incredibly important time. You are, and I'm not saying this just because, you are lucid, you make sense. And I don't find any moments where I say, God, did you hear what that son of a bitch? Nothing. We may, you know what I mean? Sometimes you might say, well, whatever. But I'm telling you, it's like, what is it? The horseshoe effect where the left and the right are pretty much the same thing. And that's what I'm saying. Jimmy Dore, thank you. I've got a link to you. What is your YouTube schedule, just so people can know? And
so we go live Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, Pacific time. But sometimes on Fridays, we go a little bit earlier, 1 to 4 p.m. And so, you can always find me at YouTube, Jimmy Dore Show, or jimmydore.com.
And I've got your links to that. My friend, you have Gray Star Portals. Thank you immensely. I owe you. You are tremendous. You are my new best friend. Thank you, my friend.
Right back at you, Lionel.
All the best. Thank you, sir. The great, inimitable Jimmy Dore. Now let's you and I continue with this. What was the moment? What did you want to say? What do you think? So much has happened today, my friend. So many today. I did a video which bothered me so much, and I hope you saw it, and I'm not just saying this, of what this Laura Loomer said about Candace. I'm not somebody who wants to say racist. I never believed in that stuff. Although sometimes, maybe it is racist, but it's no big deal. This is some of the vilest, horrible. There's something very scary going on, and I just want to address that with you. And I said this before, and I'll tell you now. There were people who did something. They did things in the old days where they exhibited not an anger, but a scariness, like a focus, like they were stalkers or something. And I realized there's something wrong here. Somebody's going to get hurt. The level of discourse is so nasty. Say what you want about Candace, or anybody for the matter. Say what you want about her politics or what she thinks, but to go after her and her husband, but in this mean, awful craziness. She just made more fans than you can imagine. You're right. It's a rage. And Jimmy Dore, I love him. And you know what? I don't even know what this means anymore about the left and the right. And honest to God, you know what? You can say something. I can say to you, you know what? I understand that. That makes sense to me. I may not share it either as passionately as you, or maybe I disagree, but I can understand it. He has said some things which I agree with 100%. 100%. And I'm telling you, the people that I am disagreeing with now the most are people who used to be considered right-wing. I don't want to say MAGA. I don't know what MAGA is. I guess that means Trump. But I'm finding myself I told my wife, I said, I don't recognize this place anymore. I feel very, very seriously, very, very, I really believe that I'm going to be eventually just in a third party or not voting at all. Let me tell you what happened today. You're going to believe that. Well, maybe you will. We were walking down the street, and we have a special election here in New York for District 3. It's city council or whatever it is, or some city council. we always vote. Always. Even if it's nothing, we're going to find somebody to vote. So we walked in, there's nobody there. So I walked in, true story. I swear to God, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. Walked in there. And oh, look at this. UFO says, Loomer is unstable. It scares me. She got the ears of the president. Could not say this myself better, my friends. Oh, and by the way, not only that, but our good friend Jamie says, Jimmy, have they started rebuilding in Malibu yet? I'm sorry, we should have gotten to that one. Pardon me. Mountain Star Studio says, study, review, avoid logical fallacies, educate. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I love you guys. Thank you, Bobby 10. And GMA, we have a new one. Thank you. By the way, thank you always for your support. It's so kind of you. So kind. But anyway, let me tell you what happened. So I walked into this thing. Hang on a minute. Where in the hell is this? There we go. So I walked in and I walked to this guy who was sitting there and he says, tell me your last name. And I've got my license. Give me your first name or the first. What's your address? I said, my address is this. He said, okay, sign here. I said, wait a minute. Do you want my license? No, that's okay. He says, sign your name. So I signed it like this. He goes, that matches. I said, that matches. Are you a graphologist? I said, you don't want my license? Well, licenses can be faked. I said, you can spot a fake. My wife will tell you this. She says, you can spot a fake license? How do you know a fake? Look at this. This is, have you seen the real license? Have you seen it? It's got the hologram on it. I can fake this. Look at it. No, that's okay. He says, you know, those, I said, wait a minute. You'll take my signature, but not a license? And he said, look, I don't want to talk politics. I said, this is not about politics. This is common sense. I couldn't believe when I was being told. So I take this, God, walk in this little thing and open it up. And I got these names, these, I don't know. Did you see, what were those names? I need like the teachers party or the family. It's like, what is this shit? Family first and all this crap. So anyway, so you know what I did? It's rank voting. Which one do you want first? So I wrote in Candace Owens, number 1. She votes for me, number 1. So I wrote Candace Owens, screw you. I put it in the thing and that was okay. It was stupid. This guy's telling me, look at your real, it's incredible. I couldn't believe it. The number one part, this franchise is the vote. So let me just tell you something. This is the most important thing in the world. There is so much happening right now. Don't you feel it? Don't you? Jimmy and I were talking. And by the way, we had never talked before until I think he invited me on his show, and I love him, and I want to make sure he talks. But you got to understand, I want to talk to him too, because I get a kick out of this. Tomorrow we got the maniac from the UK. Oh, Sean Atwood, he joins us, and then Saturday we've got Christine Fecketti. You got that one? She is out of control with her. She does something nobody else does. It's this it's hard to explain. Mr. Sarge says, gotta love Vinyl Nation. Are you not entertained? Let me tell you something. This is wild. This is wild. We're walking around here and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know. I've got friends of mine. I've got very, 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 very close friends with the president. And I'm saying, but I'm not saying you shouldn't like the president. He's a nice man. He really is. But what is he doing? How can you say this makes sense to you? How are we taking a ship? How are we boarding a ship and stealing it? That's piracy. Well, it's Iran. I said, what are you talking about? This is bullshit. What are you saying? Jamie says, I'm starting to think The sniper grazed Trump's ear. Send a message. Get in line, Donald. We paid for your campaign. We own you. Can I say something? Can you tell me where that's impossible? Can anybody tell me where that's impossible? Can anybody tell me? Now, I know some people are suggesting they believe in a weird way that the president wasn't grazed at all. I can't go that route. But I will tell you this. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. And remember one thing too. The more absurd it is, the better. Tyler Robinson is not guilty. Now you can say this any way you want. It is so obvious. Is there anyone today here? And I understand we have some trolls, and that's okay. Listen, trolls it's a free country. What are you going to do? Is there anyone here, please, you can come forward, who believes, tell me, you believe that he was, how do I say this? Believes that Tyler acted alone. Anybody? Is there anybody? Anybody? There's got to be somebody. There's got to be somebody somewhere who believes in this. There's got to be somebody who believes that Tyler acted alone, that this was his whole story. Everything he did, it was just a misunderstanding. Have you also seen, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, a defense team that doesn't want to use the virtual endless group of these deep divers from Nisi to Baron Coleman to just go down the list? Candace, have you ever seen? There's so much reasonable doubt. Tell me that the defense team is calling them and saying, please help us. Do you think that's possible? It's the most, I've never seen anything like it. And I mean it. And I'm not just saying this. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen, where are these people getting all of this information? How are these people coming up with some of the most brilliant concoctions and re-examinations of the evidence? It blows my mind. We have got to stop war. We have got to stop this nonsense. We've got to stop taking out very important, prized members of our society, namely Charlie. And then later on deciding that, well, we'll just look the other way. No. We have to stand up for him. They say, we're not going to let them do this to you. We're going to find out who did. Put it this way. We might not be able to find out who actually did it, but we'll be able to find out who didn't do it. And we'll tell you who did not do it. Do you see what I'm saying? And my friends, I hope you think, I think somebody said, well, it's good to see Lionel's come around. I know that's all bullshit, but I've never left. I can tell you right now, I am the same person, politically, intellectually. I've always been. I've always been this way. I'm a registered independent. I've never been a Democrat. I was a Republican. I was a Democrat when I was in high school because it was different. It was 1976 when I first voted. It's 1976. It was Gerald Ford, but I mean, it's Democrats. It was, Vietnam War was over, and those were the cool people, and it was a different. Republicans were going to stick in the mud. They weren't crazy then. Democrats weren't crazy. It kind of made sense. They made sense. And that was it. And they left me. And I never left them. They left me. I don't know what happened. I don't know. You cannot believe Mrs. L was in Washington and she's meeting with all of these people, all of these family members, and trying to petition. You should see her walk through the halls of Congress. I mean, seriously, going up and grabbing them, walking into the speaker's office, She's like fearless. And who speaks for these people? Who speaks for Charlie? Who speaks for whatever? I wrote an email. I wrote a newsletter, and I said, and the question was, and I said, believe me when I'm telling you this, they're doing it in London. You are going to have a law that allows you to say Muslim only. I have nothing against Muslims. I don't. Or Islam or Jewish people. I don't want there to be a Catholic only rule. Sorry. I don't want that. But when I said that, people were going crazy because they say, you're just saying that you're bought and sold by AIPAC. I said, what? You're just bringing up this Muslim thing because of AIPAC. I said, AIPAC? What are you talking about? You see the way they think? It's ridiculous. It's nuts. Then when I'm saying, wait a minute, there should be America first. You hate America. What are you, some kind of are you pro-Iranian? I'm saying, do you find yourself in that position? Does anybody here have a hard-on, pardon my French, for Iran? Am I missing something here? Seriously, am I missing something? I've got a lot of stuff here. Every time I see a pothole, every time I see... Today we saw these kids at this school, and they were so cute. There was some kind of a spring, something. They were like dressed like little bunnies. It was like Easter, kind of late. Anyway, look at these little kids. These little kids and their future and the world and war and what's going on here. I'm getting kind of sentimental. And I want a world that's just where we leave each other alone. If we don't have a bunch of military industrial complex, they're not neocons. That's the word which is incorrectly used. They're war profiteers. They're others as well. I have some neocons too. And I don't want that. I don't want any more geoengineering. I want somebody to watch what's going on with AI. I don't want AI to go away, but I want somebody to watch it. Tell me, is there anybody that you know? Is there anybody that you know? Any politician that you would like? Anybody? I was listening to Massey, makes a lot of sense. Joe Kent makes a lot of sense. Tulsi Gabbard makes a lot of sense. There's no way these people would ever show up. But if I had my dream team, I'd get Massey in there. I want Kent. I want independent thinkers like that. And anybody else who thinks, I don't care who they are. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want to hear that. I want to hear real smart people who act the right way. I want Tulsi Gabbard. I still tell you, I want Judge Napolitano on my Supreme Court. Absolutely. I want John Mearsheimer as my Secretary of State. I want Douglas McGregor, Colonel McGregor, on my Joint Chiefs of Staff. I go down the list. And one of these things which people are going to, and Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, and others, they make so much sense. They understand more, but they can't because they're so demonized. They're anti-Semitic. They're Jewish. You see what's going on? Do you see what's happening? And Jimmy brought it up. Do you see what's happening? The rules have changed. Tell me you understand this. Just tell me. Nod once. JM, or I'm driving faster, says, Chris here. Every single day we wake up, it's a blessing, irrespective and much appreciative. You researching and help us know what is really going on in this world. Real talk. Thank you for that. Very, very, very nice of you to say that. It's tough. Seriously, it is tough. Tell me one good thing in this country. Tell me one good thing. Tell me one good thing. Tell me the best thing in this country. Tell me one good thing. Tell me the best thing about this, what's going on right now in this country. One good thing, the best. What is it? What is it? Tell me. Family. Okay. Our music. Thank you. Our music. The music now is better I'm getting this YouTube music app because I go through my stuff and I'm listening, and then it collects what I've been listening to and puts it on. Oh my God. The music is superb. It's never been like this. Anything you want. I wake up in the morning and I just, oh my God. Yeah. Love the music. Love it. The guitar playing, Rick Beato, blows my mind. With the guitar players he had. And we're right in this area. We walk by Power Station all the time, and the Gibson plays. All this great music. Used to be Electric Ladyland, and this used to be the hotbed of this place. It was just, that's the best thing that's going on. That's the best thing. Other than that, oh, and the food in New York, I guess, will blow your mind in terms of just pizza. I don't remember pizza like this. I don't. We had New York style. We had Chicago style. And maybe there was something. It's exploding. I think deep down inside, people get along better than you ever agree. Who agrees with me? There's no racism. Oh, there's some. But mostly, you know what the racism is? Racism is when somebody feels that they've been treated unfairly by a cop. Van Anken, Livia says, every time there's a crisis, music quality goes up. It's funny you say that. Livia, correct, Livia? Is that right? You're so correct. Chicago deep style, deep state. You know what else? Detroit. You know what else is a style too? New Haven. Neapolitan. You name the style, we got it here. I'm telling you. There's a thing called pizza tours. This guy, Scott. I don't want to go to it because I'll never walk out alive, but pizza tours. You cannot believe. And I like a New York slice. Not the Neapolitan. They're okay. Sorry. I want a New York. It's a New York style. And then we've got grandmas, and we've got grandpas, and upside downs, and all this other guys. It is the most. You would think, how many variations is there on pizza, for God's sake? And New Haven, Abitz, Frank Pepe, and New Haven pizza. I'm telling you, they cut it in a weird way. Also, Chicago, not deep dish. What's the real Chicago pizza? What's the real Chicago pizza? It's the bar pizza. It's the thin stuff. That's what it's about. America, this is still a great piece. And I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about we're okay. And here's what I want. I want us to stay like this. And that Elon Omar wants to take our culture and throw it away. She doesn't want to assimilate. She wants to replace. And if you think I'm exaggerating, you're missing the point. I got nothing against Muslims at all. None. She's another story. She's an evil, corrupt, rancid person. I hope they run her out on a rail, indict her, charge her first, and then run her out on a rail. I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of it. I don't want to live in a world where women are walking around covered from head to tail in black veils. I don't want to see that. I don't want to live in that world. Sorry. I don't care why a woman wants to wear a veil. She may do it because she likes the fashion. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see my culture, my country replaced. Augment it all you want. Supplement it all you want. No problem. I'll see them here and there. Nope, no sweat. Hell, we got everything you can imagine. Every kind of headgear, but they want to take away our culture. This is an American country. We speak English. Now, we speak other things, but primarily English. Anybody got a problem with me? Anybody? I'm absolutely 100% correct. And if I ran for office, people would say yes. That's it. Yes. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. All of these people. I swear to you, there is this pervasive attitude of entitlement in this country. And I want to get our young people back. And if I hear one more young person tell me that they're anxious, they have anxiety, I swear to God, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind. All this anxiety. You want to talk about anxiety? Think about what the people did during World War II, who volunteered at 15 years old sometimes to fight overseas. And we got somebody who's going, I'm not going to take my edibles. I've got anxiety. Shut up with your anxiety. We got a bunch of wimps here. Weird. I want to go back in the country where people used to date and write love letters and court, pitching woo, as they used to say. Am I old-fashioned? Is that old-fashioned? Is Mozart old-fashioned? Is Beethoven? No, it's classic. Classic. You understand this? This is it. This is it. And I got to tell you something, which is the most important. This is the most important. I want you to understand that we are going to win this thing, my friends. We are going to win left and right. Whether you like it or not, we're going to win. So anyway, dear friends, I want to thank you. We've been at this for an hour and 40. Thank you so much for spending time. I want to thank again the great Jimmy DORE. I've got his link here. I'm sure you know exactly who he is. He's on YouTube. He is phenomenal. He's great. And he blessed us and honored us with his appearance. And I shan't forget it. Tomorrow, the great Sean Atwood, early, by the way, like 11:30, because there's that UK thing. So it might be early. So set your alarm. Make sure you hit the little bell so you're notified of live streams and the like. And then Saturday, Christine Feckerty. And then I'm working on some others. I don't want to announce them until I line them up. But I'm still working on Candace. Still working on Candace. And others as well. Anyway, it was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. To you and everybody. Thanks for being here. Even the trolls. Thank you so much. KR, thank you so much. KR, you're very, very kind. I had a wonderful time. I loved it. This is the best part about this. And think about this. What we do here, this interaction, you don't see on any kind of TV. You can't. Attention, BlackRock behind the curtain. Of Oz, absolutely. Among others. But we had a great time. And your interplay, this is wonderful. All right, my friends, have a great and glorious. Please do me a favor. Please right now go and sign up for Mrs. L's Lynn's Warriors. Lynn's Warriors. It means the world to us. We've got an interview we did. Also follow her on Twitter or X rather at Lynn's_Warriors. Do this. She works 24 hours all day long. Victims, families, plotting. She spent the entire day in D.C. walking, going from house to house, well, office to office, and meeting people. You have no idea the love and respect I have for her and how sincerely she is in protecting kids. So follow her at Lynn's Warriors. All right, dear friends. We love you. See you tomorrow. By the way, check out this new video I did, castigating and excoriating and execrating one Laura Loomer. In any event, dear friends, have a great and glorious day. Until we meet again, remember the monkey's dead. Show's over. Sue ya. Da-da.